Hi and welcome to this video tutorial. In today's video I'm going to teach you how to create a classifieds application for your website. This is a full implementation video, and if you're looking to build an application similar to Craigslist or another type of listing application, then I highly recommend you watch this video. Please don't pay too much attention to the aesthetics or the look and feel of this app. This video is meant to primarily focus on the workflow, functionality, and to see how easy it is to create such an application using Caspio. Alright, so let's take a look and see what we're going to be building today. I've decided that on my homepage, or index.htm, I have deployed my search form where people can visit my website, search for listings, they can see all the listings that are for sale, and if they're interested in, let's say, this BMW, I can click on the details, I can see a photo of the BMW, I can also see the price, description, and I can also contact the seller if I am interested in pursuing this listing. So if I click on this, it's going to open up a submission form, and the moment you submit this form, the seller is going to be notified via email, and he or she can log inside their account, and upon logging in, they can check their messages, they can add new listings, they can manage their own listings. And before I show you the interface of the user, let me also show you that you can register on the website as well. So if you are selling things, if you wish to post your listings on this website, you can sign up for an account, click on register, and then you can log in. And immediately upon logging in, you're taken to my listings page, which means that you can see all the listings that you are selling as a registered member of this website. I can click on the details of the BMW. I can edit the information, I can change out images, and I can also uncheck if I don't wish to publish this item anymore on my home page. You can also add new listing. So here, if you decided to sell something new, you can fill out this form, check to publish, submit, and now this listing will be available on the home page for other members or other users to be able to find. Here I can check my messages to see if anybody has contacted me about any of my listings. Let me actually demonstrate this a little bit better. I'm actually going to log out really quickly. I'm going to search again the classifieds. I know the net is selling this BMW, so I'm going to click on this details link and I'll contact the seller and say, Ashley's my name. This could be my email. I'll just put a random phone number and I'll say, I'm interested in this car. And like I said, the moment you click submit, Ned can now log into his account. First of all, he's notified via email, and as soon as he logs in, he can go to my messages and he can see that latest message that came in from Ashley. Now I can send Ashley an email, I can give her a call, and then we can meet up and do a test drive of the car or whatever else you need to do in order to make that sale. I can also delete a message, and then we have, last but not least, I have the profile page, so Ned can edit his profile information, which includes change my email, which is my username, and also my password. And at the end, you can log out, and here on the home page, you can search listings again. So this is very similar to Craigslist, this application, or any kind of a classifieds type application. And like I said earlier, if this is something that you're looking to build or have a similar application that has almost identical workflow to this application, then I highly recommend you watch this video. So let's go ahead and log inside our account and let's find out how this application was built. I'm going to go ahead and open up my application they already named, and I'm going to go directly to my tables. And for this application, you're going to need a total of 4 tables, more or less. And I'm going to actually walk you through each one of the tables so we can see the structure and what's needed as far as all the important and necessary fields. So the first table I have is the categories table. I'm going to click on design, and notice that it's only one field, which means categories. If I go to data sheet mode, these are all my categories that I have listed for my dropdown. So when people search for these different categories on the website, they have this option, which I'm linking that table to this dropdown. So that's it for that table. Just a simple table with one field, and you can list all the categories you'd like to have inside that field. The second table is the listings table. So this is a fairly big table. I'm going to click on design. And the important fields that you'll need in the listing table is the listing ID. I have it set to auto number and make sure that it's unique. Each listing that a user posts, it needs to be assigned a specific auto number. That's how that listing is going to be related to different tables or different parts of your application. I also have my category field, which I'm going to use for my option menu to be able to pull up that categories table. I'm going to link that drop down. Then you list all the ones that you wish to have in your app. I have title, description, date listed. That's a date and time. I have my 2 photos that people can upload. Those are file types. User ID is also needed, first and last name, because we want to be able to stamp the user's ID and their first and last name in this table so we can see which user is submitting that listing. And this is primarily used for the admin eyes only, so the administrator of this application can see who was the new registered member who submitted that listing for sale. Then we have publish, yes and no. This is a checkbox. Make sure it's yes to no. If you decide in your application that you want to give your users the ability to publish or unpublish items at any time. And then last but not least, we have price, which is a number, because that's going to be the cost of the particular item. And yeah, just go to this table, figure out what fields you need for your own application, but the important ones are that I usually put is user ID, first and last name, so I can see who is submitting the listings, the publish, yes and no, and then the auto number, which is going to be unique. Okay, so let's go to the second or third table. This is the messages table. And inside the messages table, again, I have the message ID because each message I'd like to assign an auto number. That's unique. User ID right over here. So we need to be able to see who is receiving this message, which one of my users. So make sure you have user ID set up here as well. Notification email. You need that field on this table as well so you can have a notify email go to the seller of that listing. Name, message, message date, email, and phone number. Those are all the standard fields. And last but not least, we have the registration table. And the registration table, of course, the number one important field is the user ID. I have it set up as text 255, and I made it unique. I could have made this an auto number if I wanted to, but I'm going to opt out and use an auto value from the data page wizard. So you can see a randomly generated number assigned as the user ID for this specific users. Just a little bit of a difference. It's basically means the same thing. It's just instead of seeing 1, 2, 3, which is a sequential number, I'd like to be able to see a randomly generated number that consists of numbers and letters. First name, last name, date registered, which is a timestamp. Email needs to be unique because you can't have the same username twice per password. And then we have the password field, which of course I made password from SmartType, so it's encrypted inside my table. Alright, so those are the 4 tables that we'll need for this application. The next step is really to create your authentication based on your registration table, because that's where all the credentials are going to be. So we go to Authentications, and inside the authentication, go ahead and click on New. I'm just going to click on Edit because I already have mine built. You select your registration table from the drop-down, and then I went with custom and recommended Caspio data source. You can modify your own depending on what kind of functionality you'd like to have in your login screen. And then down below I have email and password. Email, of course, I made that label to be email. And then we have password field. And scroll down a little bit and go ahead and expand advanced settings. And I did make a few changes here. So for the logout destination, notice I've actually put login.htm, made it relative. And what that means, when the user is logged inside their account and they click on logout, it's going to take them to this page of your website. So let me demonstrate that. So let's go ahead and log in. Alright, so notice that I'm on mylistings.htm. If I log out, it's going to take me to login.htm. And that's why in our wizard we have to set up login.htm. Timeout and redirection, I have it set to 2 hours, and I also have them going to login.htm, made that relative as well. And the reason for this is, let's say a user is logged inside their account and they stay logged in for, let's say, 5 hours, but they never actually click on logout. And this is typical even with your bank account or different websites out there that exist today. If you leave it unattended and let's say you close your screen or leave your computer, when you come back and refresh, it's going to take you back to the login screen. This is for your own security and protection to make sure nobody steals your data. So when you're setting it up inside the wizard, make sure you set this up as well. And when you're done, click on Create. I'm going to click on Save. Make sure you give your authentication a name, and then you should be able to see it here. So far what we have is 4 tables. an easy table for categories, a registration table so users can be assigned a user ID. We have the listings so users can post listings, and we have the messages so users can receive messages from other people on your website. And then you have the authentication. And now let's go to the fun part where we actually build our app, and that's under data pages. Once you have set up your tables and your authentications, now we can start building our app. So what I'm going to do is click on new data page, and the first data page that I'm going to build in just a few minutes is our registration form. Let me go to my website, let me log out. And the first thing that I want to build is this registration form so people can sign up on my website. I'm going to go with the submission form, and then I'm going to select my registration table because that's where all my registration fields are. I'm going to go with a specific style that I have created for this application, and I'm going to go ahead and use the sample style registration 1, and this is the one that I have modified for this specific app. So I'm going to go with the style. Here you can apply a different localization for different languages on your form. And I'll talk about styles and localizations a little bit more later down the line. And let me actually name my data page registration form. Here you can enable advanced options and parameters if you want to. Not necessary for the registration form, and you don't need to password protect this data page because it's going to be public facing. So if somebody goes to my website, this form needs to be public. I want people to be able to sign up on my site. Click next, and then drag all the fields that you wish to have on your registration form to the right. You can click on this or the double arrow to move them all to the right. Notice this is a timestamp in my table. If you recall, we made this field a timestamp. That's why it's always going to be here on the left. It's grayed out because it's automatically going to stamp the date and time of the submission. Alright, so for user ID, I have it set up as a text field. Notice that it's required because I made it required inside my table, or unique. What I'm going to do is, in this drop-down option, I'm going to select auto value, and you can either assign a random unique ID, select the length of your ID to whatever number you want, and then you can mix and match characters and numbers, upper and lowercase. Or you can do an application use, which is just a randomly assigned 128-bit value, so it's going to be a very long unique key or ID for each specific registered member. And this is usually what I like to go with. It's a little bit of an easier setup, and it's up to you how you wish to have your ID displayed. First name, I'm going to make that required, which means they have to fill that field in before they can register. Last name, same thing. Email, required. In Caspio, we can validate the email. So if you select special element email, it's going to look for the @ symbol and period afterwards. Actually, that's for the last name. Sorry about that. That's going to be a text field required. And then for the email, that needs to be an email field. And notice that it's automatically required because we made a unique inside our table for the registration table. And then last but not least, we have password. That's going to be required. And what I usually like to do is say create password so users know they're actually creating a password. Down below, we'll say confirm password. On the next screen, you can change the confirmation message, what the user will see when they click on register. So for example, if I change this to sample text, something like this, and click finish, here's your first form created, and now you can preview it inside Caspio to see what it looks like. And again, like I mentioned in the video, please don't pay any attention to the aesthetics, the look and feel of the forms and reports that I'm going to build in this video. The video is primarily for the functionality to demonstrate how quickly and easily you can build this app inside the Caspio system. So don't pay any attention to the look and feel and the aesthetics. And let's assume that we're happy with this look and feel. I'm ready to publish this to my website. That's very easy to do inside Caspio. Right next to the preview link, there's the deploy link. You click on that. You enable access to this data page, and what you're going to do is you're going to copy this code and you're going to paste that code into your website wherever you wish that form to be embedded. And the Caspio form is seamlessly embedded inside that part of your site. And I do actually have a sample template for us set up here, and I'm going to show you how you can copy and paste that code into your HTML. So let me open up my HTML down from below. And notice that for this application, you're going to need a total of 8 web pages These are all my web pages that I have set up for my application and for my website. And I do work directly inside HTML because I'm fairly technical myself. But I do mention this in my other videos. If you do know how to use GoDaddy or Weebly or Wix or WordPress or Yola or a different CMS system out there, if you're comfortable with that, just note that Caspio is compatible with those tools as well. And all you have to do is find a placing where you want to paste that code on your website. I'm going to paste my code right in this part for my placeholder. I'm going to save my HTML, and once you publish your website and refresh your page, you're going to be able to see that registration form seamlessly embed in that part of your website. And now if I sign up as a sample user to this application, and if I register, there's my sample text. This is the confirmation message that we're able to see now. If we go back to Caspio, and if I edit now my registration form, so you don't have to click on new, just click on edit because we already built it. You can either click on next to go to the page you'd like, or you can click on this double arrow and go directly to the destination and trigger page. And once you get there, you can edit that text. This is also HTML compatible too, so if you do know HTML, you can really customize the look and feel of this. Instead of displaying the message, you can have the users go to a new URL. So upon registration, they can go to a different page. But I'm actually going to just keep a display message, and I'm going to say something on those lines, and I'm just going to fix my spelling here. And then once you click finish, the great thing about Caspio is you don't have to deploy that code again. All you have to do is now refresh your website, and those changes will take effect immediately on your website as well, as soon as you refresh. We can click on register again, and that opens up the form one more time. Okay, so now let's go ahead and figure out how to build a login screen. If I look at our actual website template here, if I click on login, let's go ahead and build this login screen as step 2 of our application. So inside Caspio, what you're going to have to do is build a new data page, obviously. And to build a login screen, what we're going to need is an HTML data page. So select HTML data page, click Next. Let's call this data page login screen. I'm going to apply the same styles that I have. I'm going to go with the sample style. My localization is going to be English. And here we actually have to restrict access based on our authentication that we created earlier. So make sure you enable this, and from the drop down you select your authentication. And when you get to this screen, you are going to need to add a little bit of script. It's really not too complicated. It's just 2 lines of script. And this is the code that you'll need to have in this HTML data page, so your users can be redirected to this specific landing page once they log in. So type in script, open bracket, window.location =, and then in quotations, your destination page where you would like your users to be sent upon logging in. Go ahead and close your bracket and your script tag, and then click finish. And here is your login data page. To demonstrate, on our website, notice that I'm still on login.htm page, but once I log into my account, it's taking me to my listings.htm, where I have a completely new navigation bar set up for this user interface. So let's go ahead and deploy this now. Same as before, we're going to enable this, copy the code, and I'm going to go ahead and copy that code on my login.htm page. And again, for this I do have a placeholder where I wish to have my login screen deployed. So I'm going to paste that code in here. I'm going to save my script. And right over here, when I click on login, it takes me to the login screen. So it's still not completed, because what's going to happen here, once I log inside my account now, it's taking me to my listings, but notice that the user interface does not have any data pages deployed and embedded. Okay, so now we need to build the rest of this application so users can see their listings, add new listing, messages, and profile, and have the ability to log out of the account. So I think what I'll build next is a new data page is the ability for users to add listings for sale. And for that, we're going to need a submission form. So basically what I'm building is this new listing tab, and I'm going to build this form so people can add listings that they're selling. So for that, again, we need a submission form. And you're going to base that on the listings table because that's where all the listings fields are located, inside this table. I'm going to go at the sample style again, my English localization, and I'm going to call this add new listing form, for example. Restrict access based on the authentication, make sure that's enabled. And then let's go ahead and have these fields. I believe I will need all of my fields inside my form, but we can remove them later if we don't need all the fields. And now for the category field. Instead of a text field, if you remember, we created a table of all the categories, so I'm going to link that table to a drop-down. So instead of text field, select drop-down. Here you can add custom values if you don't have a lookup table, so just list all of your custom values. You can do a lookup table, and from here you can select that categories table that we have. But what I like to do is I usually like to do both, which is enables custom values and lookup table. And for the custom values, the reason why I like to have custom values enabled is because for the first option, I'd like to be able to say select category. Delete the value because you're not really selecting this. I'm going to make this field required, which means they have to fill in the category dropdown. And in the lookup table, I'm going to select my categories table to link that to the dropdown. And then keep going down your field. So we have title, I'm going to make that required. Description, I'm going to make that a text area so they can see a nice box and exactly what they're typing, and you can change the width and height accordingly. Date listed, for this I'm going to make this a timestamp, so it stamps the date and time of the submission. We have photo 1 and 2. For photo 1, inside Caspio, you have up to 50 megabytes per upload, per file. Typically images are anywhere from maybe 1 to 5 megabytes, so I'm just going to put it as 10 megabytes for photo 1. And photo 2, I'll do the same thing. And then you have these 3 fields for user ID, first name, and last name. So the best way for me to explain what we're going to do here, if you remember our table of registered members, each member that signs up for an account gets their own user ID, and they provide their first and last name inside that registration table. So we already have my information for Ned and my last name, and we have my user ID inside that table. So what I want to do in this table now is stamp that information, so I don't have to manually put my user ID and my first and last name. I can actually hide this field now, use the authentication field, user ID. So basically I'm logging in, it knows my ID, and it's going to stamp it inside this table automatically. Same thing for first name. Instead of me typing it in manually, I can hide this field. I already have that information, so I'm going to authenticate the first name and stamp the first name inside the listing table. Same thing for last name. We're going to hide this field and use the last name. And then we come to the publish checkbox. So there's a checkbox, and what I'd like to do here is say check to publish, which means if I check it, it's going to be available immediately on the home page for people to look for. And then we have the price field, and for this we can make that required. It's going to be a text field, and I think that's all I need to do here. And then you can also, on the next screen, change the confirmation message. You can say, you have added your listing successfully. Once you're done, click Finish. And now let's go ahead and deploy this data page. Enable access to it. Copy the code. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that here under My Listings, or New Listing tab. So if I open up my HTML, I call that page new.htm. So if you look on the website, it's called new.htm. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that right over here where I have my placeholder. Paste that code there, save my script, refresh my page, and there is my new listing form. So let's go ahead and make just one submission here. We'll say maybe sporting, title shoes, new shoes for sale. I don't have any images, so let's click on to publish it, and what I'm going to do is add a price of maybe $150. And notice that it says register. Well, this is where the localization comes into place. I can rename this label to say submit or add listing, and I will show you how we can do that. And I purposely left it out like this so I could show you how to change the label inside a button. So I'm going to click on Submit. There's my confirmation message. So if I go to the home page now, notice that I don't have anything published yet for the searching classifieds. I haven't built a report to be able to look for those classifieds. So the only thing we can do so far is register, log into my account. I can't see my own listings, but I can add listings to the database or to my account. So I think the next thing that I want to build is probably my listings page, which is going to show me just my own listings that I'm selling. So let's go back to Caspio, click on New. And this time what we're going to be building is a report. So up to this point we've dealt with submission forms and an HTML data page, and this time we're going to build a report. And for this, let's go with the tabular format. Over here we want to be able to list my listings based on the listings table. We're going to apply the sample style, and let me change the name, my listings report. And this I'd like to be able to have English localization. Restrict access based on the authentication, so make sure you enable that as well. Go ahead and click on Next. And then here what you want to do is either select to have a search form so you can search for your own listings, or you can have a filtering based on your predefined criteria, which means that it's just going to show you the listings that you're selling. So I'm going to enable this option here. And then you also want to restrict record access based on user identity. So make sure the user ID matches the user ID here. What that means is when I log in as my user ID, it's only going to show me listings that pertain to my ID. So let's click Next. And on the results page, I'd like to show the category. Actually, let's take this back. This is actually for the filtering first. So we're not going to filter our data based on any fields. Let's just click Next here. And when you get to select results page fields, here's where you want to list all of the fields that you're going to be listing. So for example, category, title, let's have date listed, whether or not it was published, and the price of that listing. This is up to you. You can include any fields you like inside this table or inside this report. Let's make a few modifications to our results page. So we have the category, title, date listed, and for the publish, notice what we can do here. If I click on Edit and go to Custom, and from this drop-down I select Custom, and I'll say if it's yes, I want it to say Published. If it's no or unchecked, I want it to say Unpublished. And then if it's yes, I want it to be a green color, and if it's no, I want it to be a red color. So on my report, I can see which items are published, they are going to be in green, and which items are unpublished, they're going to be in red. To show you on our website what I mean by that, if I go to my listings, and if I log in, notice that both of these items are published, and this is exactly what we just configured, that checkbox. Click OK, and then for the price, I'm going to edit this as well, go to Custom, and select Currency so it shows me the dollar symbol, and then click OK. And on your website, you're going to be able to see that dollar, and it's going to localize that as an actual value for the amount. Next, I'd like the ability to delete the records. So all my listings, I want to be able to delete them. And yes, I'm going to enable a details page. And inside the details page, I'd like to be able to see category, title, description, basically all of the fields pretty much, except for the user ID and first and last name. They don't need to see this because they know who they are once they log into their account. Alright, so for category, instead of display only, let's say you submitted a listing on this submission form and you selected electronics and you fill out the rest of this information and click submit, but you realize you made a mistake because this really belongs to sporting. So what you want to do here is instead of display only, I'd like to be able to have the ability to change the status or the category using a drop down, and here we can just do lookup table and select your categories. And the reason why I don't do both here is because this is internal now. Because we already added that information when we submitted the listing. This is just editing now. So there's really no reason to have select category for this section here. Title is going to be a text field. Description is going to be a text area. Date listed, I can move that to the top. Photo 1. So if you want to be able to have the ability to change the photo, you have to make sure you select File, Image, and then here we can set the width. And leave the height blank, because if you put it as 250 as 250, then if you had uploaded an image that was, let's say, 500 by 100, then it's going to make the image disproportionate and it won't look right. It's going to be skewed. So make sure you leave this blank so it keeps the parameters of the image exactly how they were once the image was uploaded. Photo 2, again, File, Image, and let's do 250 by 250. Publish. So here we can enable this to be a checkbox, and we can say Publish or check to publish. And then we have the price. That's going to be a text field as well. And then when you're done, click Finish. And here's your first report. So now we can deploy this guy, enable access, copy the code, and let's paste that code to our website. And I'm going to go ahead and paste it on this page, which is mylistings.html. So I'm going to open up my HTML, my listings. Here's my placeholder. I'm going to paste that code there, save my script, publish my website, refresh, and there are my listings that I'm selling. So this is the report that we just built in a few minutes. So far we have new listings, and we can also manage our listings. So if I go to the details page, I can edit all the information pertaining to my listing. Let's add one more listing so you can see the workflow here. So we'll say sporting, we'll say tennis, new tennis for sale, something like that. Add your images. Let's not publish this one just yet, but let's add the price to say 250. Click submit. Then when you go to my listings, you're going to be able to see that red color is unpublished, because now this item is not available for the public to search just yet. But if you do publish it, people will be able to find that. So I'm going to purposely leave this as published and unpublished so you can see the difference. And the next step, what I'm going to build, is the ability for website visitors to be able to search listings that users are submitting. So let's go back to Caspio and let's build a new data page. And again, I want to build a report. You do have an option for different layouts here on how you wish to present your report. I'm just going to go with the simple tabular for now, just to demonstrate the functionality. If you have images, typically this is the best option, gallery, but I'm going to go with tabular and click next. That needs to be based on our listings table again. I'm going to apply the same style, localization, and I'm going to call this now public search listings. We don't need to do anything here just yet. I'm going to show you why we're going to need to enable advanced options and parameters a little bit later. We don't need to restrict access based on authentication because we're not password protecting this data page. We're going to click next. Yes, I'd like the ability to search my data. And I want to be able to give my users the ability to search based on category, title, let's see, and price range. Let me see what fields I have in our actual example. So if I log out and go to search classifieds, so category, title, and price, those are the three fields that I have. Perfect. So we click next. For category, as you can see, we have a drop down, and I have the ability to search for any. So what I'll do here is I'll select drop down. We're going to go with both custom values and lookup table. And for custom values, like I said, search any. Delete the value because you don't really have this inside the table. And then the lookup table will be your classifieds categories table. Okay, so we're going to link that lookup table to this drop down here for people to search. For title, you can leave it as equal and a text field, but I usually like to use contains. The difference is if I leave it as equal, I have to know the exact title, what I'm searching for. But if I leave it as contains, it only searches just keywords from that entire title to be able to pull that. So let me give you an example here. Let's say if I'm searching for BMW, and if I click search, there's that BMW. But had I left it as equal, I would have to know the exact title of what I'm searching for before I can find that result. So it's always best to go with contains because it's more like keyword. For price, we'd like to be able to do a price range. And to do a range inside Caspio, what you have to do is insert what we call new criteria. And as you can see, it creates two additional options underneath that field for price. You're going to set it to end. And then criteria 1 is going to be price I usually like to do this to my label so people know that it's from. And then you need to set it to greater than or equal to. And criteria 2 is going to be less than or equal to. And you can apply the same thing if you have date range, price range, listings, whatever functionality you need to have for your app, you can apply the same feature as well. Okay, so on the results page, let's see, what are we showing on the results page? So click search, date listed, title, and price. So we'll include date listed, title, and price. And just need to make a few modifications here for price. We're going to customize this so it's in currency. On the next page, we're going to list 25 per page. Of course, you don't want people to delete the records. Only the users should be able to delete that, people who are submitting the listings. Yes, I'd like to enable a details page. And in the details page, I'm going to include, let's see what I have on my details page. So for this item, I have date listed, category, almost all the fields. So let's go ahead and include category, title, description, price, date listed, 2 photos, and those are all the fields I like to have. So click next. And notice here that we have everything by display only, and this is the correct way of doing it. Here in the photos, you can actually change the setting to image, and then you can make the images a little bit bigger. Set it to image, and then we'll say 400. And we're going to keep everything display only because I don't want public users to be able to edit this information. When you're done, click finish. You're going to click on deploy now. Enable access to this data page, and let's copy this code to the index page, index.htm. So let's go left here a little bit, index, and paste that code right over here. Save our script, refresh, and there's a search form. So now when people go to the website, they can click search, they can see all the listings that are for sale. And I did actually forget to include one thing, so I'm going to have to show you. And the reason why I have to edit my report again is because if you recall, inside our account, tennis was actually unpublished, so this actually shouldn't show up in the results. And to fix this, we're going to go back to Caspio. We're going to edit our report. And inside the search form, we want to include the publish field. And the change that you have to make here is we have to hide this field and click this yes, which means only show the published items to the results page. And this is not going to be on the search form. So let's take a look one more time. Click finish. Let's go back to our example template, search again, and now we should only be able to see one result, which is correct. This is the only published item. If I log in as Ned, and let's say I go to the details page of this one and I say I want to publish this now, click update. Now it's going to be published, and now it should be available for people to find and inquire about. So there's that item now available on the results page as well. So when I click on details, I can see additional info. Photo 1 and Photo 2 is missing because we didn't upload any photos. And this is actually a good time to show you how you can remove these fields if they're blank, because it doesn't make sense to have the label here but no images, right? So let's go back to Caspio. Let's edit our report one more time. And this is where you want to enable advanced options, and you may as well enable parameters because we're going to be using this later on. And let's go directly to our configure details page. And now that you've enabled the advanced tab, this advanced tab becomes available. And then you can say hide field of blank and hide field of blank. And you can actually apply that to all the other fields too, like description. So if that's blank, it's going to hide it. Same thing for price. And you can play around with which fields you want to make required versus not required. Finish. Let's refresh. And notice that both of those labels are missing. And if somebody did upload a photo, then it would show over here, and you'll be able to see the photo, either for photo 1 or for photo 2. Okay, so let's see, what are we missing for our application now? Let's search again and make sure everything is working properly so far. We can go to the details of the shoes. And what we're missing is now this contact seller button to be able to actually submit a message and have the user be able to see their own messages. So let's go back to Caspio, and now let's build that messages form, the submission form. So we're going to click on New. We need the submission form. And what we need is the messages table. We're going to apply the same style. Let's call this data page submission. Well, let's call it contact form. Localization will be English. You are going to need to enable advanced options and parameters. You don't need to password protect because that form is going to be public facing. What you are going to need to do here is you're going to need to include all of these fields inside that submission form, except for these two. You don't have to worry about these two fields. And the most important thing here that you'll need to do is just a little bit of modification. It's not overly complex. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. For the user ID, we're going to need to receive the user ID inside the messages form once we click on that contact seller button. So what you need to do in the advanced tab, you're going to need to receive value or parameter, external parameter, and let's call it user ID for what it is. So we'll call it user ID. Okay, and then here instead of a text field, you want to make sure this is a drop down. Okay, and then you're going to do a lookup table, and you need that registration table because that's where the user ID is for this specific seller. Okay, and then a notification email, instead of a drop down, it needs to be a cascading drop down now. And if you set it up as cascading drop down, the parent field is going to be the user ID, which is the one right above it. Lookup table, and again needs to be a registration table. Filter based on user ID, but field for display should be the email field. So basically it's filtering based on the user ID. It's going to show that email associated with that user ID, and that's basically what we're doing here. And later on I'm going to show you how to hide both of these fields, but for now we're going to keep them as is. And then you have the name field, that's going to be required, text field, message, text area, email, phone number, and when you're done, click Finish. Okay, so here's your contact form. We're not done yet. There's one step left to be able to connect this form to our results page. So what I'm going to do is deploy this. And I'm going to go ahead and deploy that form to my contact page. And I'm going to save my script. And on my website, I don't have access to it just yet because I have not put my button in to be able to take me to contact.htm from the index page. Okay, so now we need to create that contact link. So let's go back to Caspio. And on our listing report, the public one, where the public can search. Where is my public? I think this is the one. So yeah, let's edit this. And let's go to details page right away. And in the details page here, you're going to be able to insert what we call either a header and footer or an HTML block. I'm going to go ahead and insert a header and footer. And inside the header, I'm going to put in a little bit of HTML, which is just going to be a hyperlink. And I'll show you exactly what I'm doing in just a moment. Let me just write it out. Alright, so basically what we're doing is we're passing the user ID of the person that submitted this listing to the contact page. So just a little bit of syntax that's needed here. If you know how to write a basic hyperlink, it's fairly easy. You can follow exactly what I did here. Basically href =, quotations, and then your destination page where you have the form deployed. And then you need to have a question mark, user ID equals, and then you insert the user ID field as a string, and then you call or name your link the way you're supposed to, the way you want to, basically. When you're done, click Finish, and then refresh your details page now, and notice there's the contact seller link. If I click on this now, what's happening is passing that user ID to the form, and the email that's associated with that user ID is being listed in the cascading dropdown. Okay, so same thing if I search for my other items too. For example, this one, if I click on contact seller, there I have enabled both of these, and it's passing that ID and also the email associated with that ID. So now let me show you how to hide both of these fields so people don't actually see that. There's no need for them to see it. So on the submission form or the contact form, we're going to click on Edit. And when you get to this screen that we built earlier, you're going to insert 2 HTML blocks. The second HTML, I'm going to move that down underneath my email like this. So what you're doing is you're wrapping both of these fields by these 2 HTML blocks. In a way, you're manipulating both of these fields to perform a hidden attribute. So what you're going to do is say table style equals display none, like this. And then all you have to do is close your table in this HTML block. And all it's doing is hiding both of these fields with this little bit of CSS and HTML. On the next screen, your submission was successful. You can rename that to say your message was sent. Down below, what you're going to have to do is enable acknowledgement email and select the notify email from the drop-down. And on the very next screen, you're going to configure that notification email that's going to go to the seller. So for example, from no reply at company.com, and then the subject line is, you can call it whatever you want. You can say something like, you have a new message at classifieds.com. Please log into your account to retrieve your message. Sincerely, team name. When you're done, click Finish. And now let's go back to our example. Let's search again. We're searching. We're going to go to Details. I'm interested in this item. I want to contact the seller. And notice that both of my fields now are hidden. They're still going on behind the scenes. And once I submit this form and click Submit, the email notification is going to go to Ned. And that's going to be able to log into his account, go directly to messages, and see his messages. And now let's go ahead and see how we can build this report that displays just my own messages. So back to Caspio, click on New Data Page Type. Again, you're going to want to build a report. I'm going to go with the tabular format. Click Next. That's going to be based on a messages table. Let's go with the style. Let's call this data page My Messages. Apply this localization to it. Of course, you need to restrict access based on the authentication. I don't want to be able to search my messages. I just want to be able to see them. And I'm going to restrict access based on the user ID. So this is very important here because you want to be able to see messages just that pertain to my specific ID. And then in the results page here, I want to be able to see the name of the person that's contacted me, their message, message date, their email, and their phone number. Not going to make any changes here. I'm going to be able to delete my messages. And let's disable the details page for now. Click Finish. And here's my 7th data page. This is my messages report. I'm going to deploy this. And I'm going to go ahead and copy my code to messages.htm. Save my script. Refresh our page. And notice I don't have any messages yet. So what happens if I log out? And let's say Ken is interested in these shoes. He's going to contact me. Say Ken. My email can be Ken and some random phone number. Click Submit. Ned is immediately notified via email to make sure that he logs into his account to be able to see that message. And as soon as he logs in, go to My Messages. There's that message from Ken. And now I can retrieve it, I can delete it, and I can contact Ken to meet up and be able to make that transaction and sell my shoes. And that's how easy it is to build that messages report. And last but not least, for this app, we have the profile page, so users can update their profile. So let's go back to Caspio, and let's build our very last data page. And this time what you need to build is the update form, because all you're doing really is updating your personal information. So we click Next. We select that registration table, sample style. Let's call this Update Profile, English. restrict access. Again, this needs to be user ID based on user ID. And I want to show them their name, date registered, email, and password. I'm going to move date registered to the top so they can see what date they signed up for an account. First name, let's not give them the ability to change their first and last name, but let's give them the ability to change their email if they want to. Actually, let's have that be a special element email. And then you can also change your password. And click finish. Alright, so here's our last data page that I'm going to deploy now. And I will go ahead and deploy that to profile.htm. And save my script. And now let's go to the profile page, refresh, and there's the profile page. So now you can edit your email, your password, and you can see your first and last name as display only. So there it is. We have a fully functional application. It's a classifieds app. It takes literally, without showing people how to do it, it takes literally maybe 25 to 30 minutes to build this. And you can build it fairly quickly with hardly any coding. Very, very minimal amount of coding needed inside Caspio, and then you can just copy and paste it into your data page wizard. And if you are looking to build this application, then I highly recommend you try it yourself. If you do end up having any questions, give us a call. Let us know what you're looking to build and whether or not Caspio can help. We do provide a lot of support and assistance, so give us a call if you have any questions. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll be in touch.